Good morning, sweet peas. We are here for our last of the Instagram lives for Sanctuary. At least this big part. We're gonna have some one-offs in the upcoming weeks, but this is our last of the like really big push, and that is because the Creative Coven Challenge is starting tonight. So now is a great time to join the Sanctuary Hub if you have not already. And today we are going to have one of my dearest ones, Samson, learn. Yay! Hi, Samson. And he's going to be joining us, and he just has to click the button that says request to join, and then hopefully Instagram will behave with us so that then I can add him on. And then we're going to be chatting, and I'm really excited about today's chat. A, because obviously I love Samson, but B, because Samson has been the photographer of all of my books. He's also going to be the photographer for Sanctuary. And so we're going to chat just generally about what we've been doing and Sanctuary for both of us, but then also like basically how these book projects come along. It's a great time to ask us questions. And then I wonder if I can ask people to join. Is that a thing? No. Samson, you just gotta, I don't know on your end where, oh wait, I see it. I see it. Yay. On here shortly. And then Willa just went to go drink some water. I'm sure she's gonna appear in my lap very shortly because that is what she does. Yay!
It worked.
Hi, my love.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm really well. It's a whirlwind. I photograph mostly weddings, and it's height of wedding season, so everything feels very wham bam 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 bam, like just like one after the other, and trying to manage my own personal time, and also manage a relationship, and also renovate a house.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the process. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it's a lot.
And yeah, you have, I mean, we've been doing these books since 2016. You've been photographing my novels for many years prior to that. But for the last quite a few years, you've pretty much focused on wedding. And like folks can definitely book you for things like portraits or like boudoir
Yeah.
sessions, but weddings are really like your main focus. And I feel like also wedding season, like COVID put a scupper on it for a
Mm,
but even pre-COVID wedding season, like we try and plan our book stuff,
around it.
right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's becoming like a shorter window for us to be planning around because
Yeah.
it used to be that weddings were basically done by end of September. Now it's like definitely pushing through October, and then you still have editing that you have to
I
do.
have some in November this year. Like
That's
it's
fucking
bonkers.
oh,
Yeah.
which like honestly, I would probably do a wedding in like October or November's pushing it, depending on where.
Yeah, these folks are doing it November Oceanside.
No,
Oh, like that's bold. That's so bold.
that I hope they are wearing fur stoles over those. Like that's, I mean, okay. To be fair though, and we won't talk too much about this because this is like we're right now in theory we should be focusing on Sanctuary slash I should be focusing on Sanctuary, but I 100% have already started like swatching and gathering yarns and planning for the book after Sanctuary. Um, and that is going to be a wedding book
Like
finally.
typical Ash fashion though.
I know.
What is life if you don't have like five projects in the process?
Like actively on the go, being
Yeah.
distracted by all the things. But yeah, I don't think that I've actually told you this yet, but for the wedding book, one of my notes is like, I would love for to do it in two locations because initially we were planning like just a warm location.
Mhm.
Like, no, I want it to be in a warm and a cold location and then have knits like similar but like different weights of yarn so that you can like style depending on wherever the fuck you decide to get.
But also brainwave. In the typical run of a wedding, there are multiple locations. So wouldn't it be amazing to take all your pieces and kind of photograph them through the process of a wedding day and like do styled weddings for the ceremony section, do some party shots for the reception to kind of show people how these knitwear pieces can like come through on their wedding day.
Yes, yeah, 100%. This is see like the as far as I'm concerned, the purpose of a wedding is just to have an excuse to dress
Fashion.
really food and make a lot of ridiculous projects. Like I don't really see the purpose of a
I
wedding.
mean, if you ever find yourself with spare time, just plan a wedding because you'll lose it all. Like there will be no more spare time.
Yes, literally. I honestly like I don't understand. I don't understand. Like I'm like if you have like a short timeline, go and do the legal marriage portion, but like a wedding, as far as I'm concerned, just like you need the time to make the shit.
Yeah.
And even if you're like not doing much. But I'm also somebody who's like, ah yes, a wedding, hand bind and hand sew a quilt. That's a
Let me make 200 yards of hand stitched bunting.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
that person. And let me eco print all of the bunting beforehand.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Oh God.
And I only know how much bunting, like how much work bunting is right now because we're making bunting for the housewarming.
Oh,
But we didn't do like hand dyed print or anything, like nothing like that. We actually just like went to thrift stores and found basically we're doing all white materials with print on it. So
yeah.
like some are floral, some are paisley, some are striped, some are polka dots, but it's all white material with different prints on it. And
Oh,
it will not be in any particular order because just cutting it out and stitching it together is going to be the hardest part.
my OCD is already bothered by this, though. I'm gonna arrive and be like, "What the fuck? Let me fix your thing for
It goes polka dot, polka dot, polka dot stripes, polka dot, polka dot. What is that?
you." I'll
We'll
just
just
have.
see how many people we can watch just like panic inside their brain.
Oh God, yeah. This is how my OCD manifests itself. Like cleaning is not my thing, which is something that Samson and I, when we travel together, I nest, and Samson is extremely organized and also quite minimalist. And he just has to. He like we kind of negotiate like where are my nests taking place in the car.
This is your zone.
Yeah. But my OCD very much comes out in like patterns and numbers and repeats, which is why it works well for me as a designer. Yeah.
I'll tell you that there will be a pattern and we'll see what time of the night and after how many pirate juices you figure out the pattern.
I just spent the whole time being like, there's no pattern, there's no pattern. I'm trying to like force it to work and then still taking the bunting down, fixing it, and putting it back up. Oh man. But yeah, I mean, like the amount of time that it takes to do, like, I mean, these book babies that we've been making on average are about 3 years. And for us, the photography usually comes in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's like,
And
and
usually over 6 days.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
really.
like we do it relatively quickly. It's a huge part of the process.
But that's also, Ash, that's a huge testament to your ability to plan and communicate a vision. And so like that's a lot of work. And like kudos to you. Because like you're able to like take this, communicate it to me in somehow our language or my language, and we roll with it from there.
Yeah, and I feel like every time we do a show or do a show, see, this is the thing is that for me, books are very much they're my theater productions, and so like because my background is in theater, like that's when you met me was I was doing my first of two theater degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I've trained in every single part of productions, and so for me, these books are very much now my version of doing a theater production. And so it's like, here's all the behind the scenes stuff. Here's the making of the props and the costumes. And then the actual show portion isn't actually when we do the layout. That's kind of like the that's almost the script for me. But like,
Yeah.
and is the actual photography.
When it comes to life.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, our brains also like I feel like each time we do it, we get better at figuring out because our brains actually are quite different in the way that we
Oh,
are
yeah.
organizing things. And we kind of get better at being like, oh, okay, if I give you this information, then that actually gets us to the end point much quicker. Like it's still, it always turns out beautifully. And I remember after we made our first book, that was the point where it was like, oh, okay, these books are not just knitting books. These are like coffee table photography books, which is also why we've made a point as with each of the books of including as much of the photography and having just like whole sections where it's just pages. Like our second book, Fethsko, when we went to Iceland, there's an entire chunk that's just called The Place, and it's landscape photography that you took while we were there because
this is also like my mom keeps these books on display, and not just because like she's proud of her baby, but like because they're beautiful to look at. Nobody in that household knits.
No, this
They're
is
right there on display.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I think another thing that has served us well is being quite good at being flexible with each other in
Oh
terms
yeah.
of it, like both like in the moment, like we also are like both notorious for getting hangry and moody during trips. And we've kind of learned like, okay, make sure we book some off time that where we can like go away from each other and then come back.
Yeah.
Cause
We figured that after the first one. Like,
yeah,
okay, so let's review.
yeah. Snacks all the time and also time away from each other, but also like,
Snacks
and
and blankets.
yeah, snacks and blankets.
I
Yes.
keep you happy. Snacks and blankets.
That's real. We're basically just like babies, is what it comes down to. But it's like, I mean, it's also, you know, we do these trips and the trips are so much fun and we get to go on incredible adventures normally. Kutch kind of went sideways because of early days of COVID. Um, but you know, like for other people, like Marshall came with us when we did Fethsko in Iceland. And for a normal person, it's this incredible like adventure time. You get to like go and do this incredible travel. And that is also largely like how we make plans for the books. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
we went to this place. How can we make a book out of going to this place? But it then becomes like not a small project where it's like it's not a vacation anymore. It is now like we are very much working. There's a lot of work that both of us are doing. When we were in Iceland, like we'd do photos all day. Like we'd just be driving and then stop somewhere, take photos, figure it out. Marshall would like go and do his thing while we were doing that. And then in the evening, we'd find a place to camp. And then you were editing things, and I was frantically doing like layout work with the book.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, like I think also just because of the time frame at which we're generally taking the final book photos, the book is almost ready to go at that point. We're in like the final stages of tech editing. The, you know, the test knitters are in their final legs if they're not already done, and the plan is usually that shortly after the photos are taken, then it's going to the printers and we're doing those. So it's kind of this like final really humongous push that meanwhile has had like 2 to 3 years worth of work before that, getting it ready, figuring out like here's the logistics. Like, yes, I'm making so much of the work, but you're also like, we're regularly talking about it, figuring out, you're being like, okay, if we're going to do this, then we need this. You need to keep this in mind.
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of coordination parts of it.
Yeah. Coordination and also like collaboration, which sometimes as an artist is very hard, where it's like you have a vision and an idea, and I come at it with a vision or idea, or I tell you that's just not going to work because.
Yes.
And having to recalibrate certain visions or views or see the benefits of certain things. And
Yeah.
I think we're really good at kind of going head to head with those ideas. And what comes out at the end is this like really kind of beautiful manifestation of both of our brains with like guidance completely from you and all the pre-work from you, and like coming into it with more of a technical approach on my end and leading the artistry up to you is like, yeah, I feel like it's a really it's a good combination.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it's so funny that we haven't done a wedding book yet. I think just because like they're huge fucking endeavors. But like something that I always am like, you know, yes, you're this incredible portrait photographer, but as a wedding photographer, one of the things that people benefit from with you specifically is that, and I think part of this also maybe comes from doing our early books, was that knitting photography requires so much textural work and so much focus on like very small specific details that you've taken that into your wedding photography. And as a result, like you take photos of like people like doing, you know, the buttons up on a dress or tying up a shoe, or just like, you know, the ring photos placed in places. Your photos of those moments are like beyond what I see most other wedding photographers take. Other wedding photographers can take really stunning, you know, portraits, and like there's very much a story, but you like you do the story with the portraits and then also all of these small moments that are just these very specific detail pieces that
Well,
lend
yeah.
to our books, but in your main work makes it just like that much more special for people when they get the end photos.
Yeah. My whole branding is around story. And for me personally, how I live my life, the story is in the details. Like it is the little moments, the fleeting moments, the like the little tiny things that make you smile at the beginning of the day and somehow it just like lasts all day. It's those little things and I look for them not like a target, like a radar on a wedding day. Some of that stuff actually like really does come to me intuitively and I'm so grateful for that gift because I don't know how to teach it, and it is about instincts, and I mean anyone can be a great photographer with enough time and effort, but I really do believe that there is a innate instinct to like pick up on body language or to know that something unique is about to happen or to see like how preciously someone holds an earring before they put it in. You can be like, hey, is that special? Like what's the story with this? Like, or the something borrowed, something blue, like asking about it and knowing like are they doing this sort of tradition, and then they start telling you the story of the items that they have and you're like, aha, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
These things are special, or this gold bracelet is actually a gold nugget that your like great great uncle found in a river when he was in the Yukon. Like there are these little stories that come through, and it's a special thing when a client shares those things with me, and it's not always expected. So sometimes you have to look for their body language and the way that they're handling things, or the way that they've packaged something before that they take it out and put it on, and ask. And they might not even tell you, but you take the detail photos anyhow because you don't know how special it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that you've got like this sensitivity that just makes it so much like the the photography. You can very much feel that where you're just like so attuned to your clients, and then also like just so good at making people comfortable in front of the camera. Like, yeah, I mean, we've been doing this basically like since you picked up a camera and since I was,
Yeah.
like an extra awkward creature. But I've become a lot more comfortable in front of the camera, and yet I still definitely have these moments of just like stiffness. And like, you're good at getting people to loosen up, and you also have really basic techniques where, like, if it's still
Oh,
not, you're like, okay, hold this thing in your hand. And it's like, like for me, having something in my hand immediately makes me chill out. Although we also have some really solid bloopers at times of me being like, I don't know what to do with it.
yeah. It's also easy, I find, to give typically brides and grooms, especially grooms. They're not models. I mean, they're just regular people, and it is a very special day, and they want these photos, but they don't know how to body sometimes, and giving them something to do. So, like you gave a detail earlier of like people doing up the buttons, giving them something to do with their hands, or for example, I've asked brides to kind of pull their dress into a bunch, like
Mm,
leg, and then let it down, and then count the bunches as they're doing it and let it down. And it's just something to do with their hands. And once they have a job or a task, their face relaxes, their whole body is more natural because they become, instead of focusing on a camera, they're more focused on the task, which lets them their true selves and authentic self kind of come out in the form of body language. And it's subtle. It's like their shoulders will be just a little lower, or their chin just a little more forward. So there's like tiny things that take it from this to this, and it's like so different. And they see it. They'll see it when they look at their photos. They recognize it. Their loved ones, especially when they look through the photos, see it and recognize, oh, that's you.
yeah. Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just seeing here a comment. Wedding photographers are magical. It's true. And also, like, there's like, just because you're a good portrait photographer or just because you're a good photographer generally does not mean that you are also a good wedding photographer. And in the same way, like, just because you do wedding photography doesn't mean that you would necessarily be a good photographer for these books. Like,
Yeah.
that's something that's been interesting over the years of us, like during the photo shoots, then we'll be kind of checking in with each, like, okay, are we getting what we need? And now basically like, okay, I need around this many images. We're going to want like close-ups far away, in action, da da da. But the like there's been over the years a very clear in my eyes progression and growth in you also knowing, okay, well, we want this kind of a detail photo. And it's not just about like, am I close enough that I can see the stitches really clearly? It's also like, can we maybe get the fluidity of the drape in there? And like, I was looking through recently, actually, when I was making the sales page for the Sanctuary Hub, I was going through our photos from Fetsco out in Iceland, and there were so many photos where I just had forgotten that we'd taken them. And the ones where we found the small house in the hill, and we were taking photos of the stole, and just like wrapped around it in front of this house in the hill that's
wrapped in grass.
yes,
Solid, right?
yeah. And I was like, oh my God, right. This is like there's a couple of photos within that bunch where I was like, this is still very much like me in a nutshell. And to have captured that essence from, I mean, now that's been 5 years and it still feels like, oh yeah, like that's like my core being. And I mean, like the funny thing too for us is like the stories behind some of the photos, like some of the most beautiful, stunning photos come from like literally, we took these incredible photos of a black yarn shawl, Elkfield, which is one of my most popular patterns, which I very much test to your photography.
And we high sun.
Pardon?
We took those details in high sun. I still am so blown away by that.
And beside a fucking porta potty on the side of the road, like we
Literally,
I had tea, and then like, oh wait, this ditch is really nice. Let's try and take some photos here. And they're incredible. And like I mean, it's a black yarn, like a pure black yarn.
In bright sun with a light backdrop.
Yeah, like so much about it should not work. And unfortunately, that skill in photographing that black yarn then made me think, okay, let's do an entire book of black shawls. And then we couldn't get together and I had to take the photos in winter light. So Kutch photos, like when you see the digital images, you're like, oh yeah, I see. But like there's certain pages where like no matter what we did with the printing, they just were not going to come out. So I've learned that. But I think that's also something that has been tricky over the years is kind of figuring out, okay, which yarns, they might be beautiful in person, but which ones are going to photograph well, and not only photograph well for digital use, but then for us to then print. And know that some of the detail is either going to be lost or some of the color isn't going to be quite as true. And especially where there's so much texture in yarn and in different types of fibers, making sure that it doesn't look too busy or that it doesn't obscure the texture that we're trying to get. Like with this one, I knew pretty early on that the color palette has changed a little bit from the original. The original had quite a lot of neutrals in with some like really rich russets, and then also some kind of like peachy colors. It's very much turned much more into a berry toned palette. But I remember like I mailed you scraps of fabric from some of my original plans. Got them because I was like, okay, I need to know that like, can we photograph these? And like, there have been things that I've been like, okay, what if we use crushed velvet for some of the
does it translate?
Get like I send you things in advance before I even purchase fabrics for base outfits because I'm like, is this going to photograph well? Like, I don't know, and you have that skill set to be able to be like, this will be fine, or like, this is going to be a fucking nightmare for us on the day. Do something different. Yeah. So we haven't actually talked about your definition of sanctuary. We also haven't officially like addressed like, who are you? Where can people like if people wanted to book you, where are you? If people aren't where you are, is there a place that like you'll travel to or won't travel to? Like
just about anywhere. COVID has kind of squashed that a bit. So my right now is focused mostly on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So I've been in doing some weddings in New Brunswick, mostly Nova Scotia, PEI, I mean, if you're from Newfoundland and you're getting married, give me a holler because I would love to be going to Newfoundland.
Yep.
Yeah, so that my work right now is predominantly focused on the East Coast. I was in Southern Ontario, so I still get inquiries in the Ontario region. I am referring those at the moment just because I'm a coronavirus baby. I don't want to be all over the world right now. And I expect that some people do, and some people are just over it, but some people can't be. And I'm one of them. I've got compromised people in my family, and I'm not making those risks. I'm not taking those steps yet. So I still mask up at weddings and all of it. And that's just how I'm going to roll until I feel safer to not do that. Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, that level of like additional awareness nowadays for you with your clients, like you're not only like you also can't really afford to get sick at a wedding because like wedding season is so packed and you're
Yeah.
moving between so many groups of people. Like, yes, there's small elopements that you do and engagement sessions that you do, but then you end up like at a wedding with 300 people who have traveled from all over and like
Yeah.
can't risk not only your own family but then
Other
like
people.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think people, there hasn't been any pushback on it. Like people have not questioned me. They usually just say like, oh, you can take your mask off if you want. And I'm like, no, that's, like 100 different people every weekend. Like, I don't want to risk your family or mine. Like, but Kelsey, my partner, she also spends time with her grandparents weekly.
Yeah.
And I see mine about every other weekend, every other week rather. So, we see our grandparents enough that it's a risk that neither of us are willing to take.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we work together on these weddings, photographing them, and we mask up, and we just like take precautions and be as safe as possible.
I'm seeing Owen here. Hi, we love you too.
Hi, Owen.
Uh, so how far ahead are you booked at this book? Because this is also the other thing is like usually when we're like, okay, we're gonna do a book, it's like, okay, like we're planning the photo shoot usually at least 2 years ahead. And even then we're like, okay, you've already got bookings.
What are we working around? Yeah. So bookings tend to, for the year ahead, tend to come in like really strong at the end of the year. So like as soon as I'm like catching my breath, essentially after editing November, December, people are like, oh, we should probably do this. We should book this ahead. Or like, oh, we finally picked our date or we've locked down our venue. Let's get our photographer. So November, December, January, February, March are like high booking season for typically the like November, say 2023, or sorry, November 2022, I would be booking for summer 2023.
Right.
But I will in advance, like if I get an inquiry that's like a year and a half in advance that are like, they're looking at fall of 2023, they're like, hey, are you available? It's like, well, yes, I am. And I give them my rates. And if they're ready to book and they want to book and they're sure they want me, that I'm not going to not book because it's that far in advance.
Yeah, exactly.
I would be hesitant at this time to be booking 2024 because there's also just like, my rates are going to change. So I'd be shooting myself in the foot a bit by like booking with 2022 rates for a 2024 wedding. And I'm seeing that this year. So although I'm like busy as heck this year, some of my bookings were like retainer paid in 2018.
Right. Oh, that's wild. I mean, also like,
And my rates are very different.
yeah, they would be. And like,
Because in and I was moving back to Nova Scotia from Ontario. Like it was around that time, and I needed to drum up business. I needed to make sure that I had enough to survive.
yeah.
Yeah. So my rates were like around the 2,000 mark for a full day, but now I'm at 3,000, which is relatively standard in the industry here in Nova Scotia. Like there's no. I mean, if I had to guess an average, I would say that the average wedding photographer with as much experience as I have is charging around 3,000, maybe 3,500 in this area. So I'm at market value, babies.
And you're going to get incredible value for that market value. that's fucking wild though. Because even just thinking about like, I mean, I at this point, at this point we haven't officially locked down our dates for the sanctuary photo shoot, and part of that is just
Oh,
figuring
we
out.
have,
Yeah, we know what our window is, and a lot of it is also like, I mean, there's so much still up in the air. Like we're going to be traveling during like cold and flu season again, and so it's like, okay, do we lock shit down? And like it's making it trickier to be planning so far ahead, because it's like we don't know what the fuck's going to happen for all of our international travel at this point, which is not like initially the plan for the wedding book was like, okay, what's some international options that we're looking at? Originally we were looking at fucking New Orleans, and now I'm like, I don't States in like November of 2024. No, thank you.
nope.
And so, like that's like just the state of the world has become very uh honestly tricky to kind of like plan around that far in advance. And I've also like, bless Pinterest, I've got some lovely photos that people have taken in old Montreal, and I'm like, cool, that looks like we'd potentially be in like somewhere in Europe with that
Yeah,
architect. That's our backup, where it's like
that.
with it. And I mean, we're very, very lucky to live in a country that has so much variation, both in flora and fauna, and also in architecture and culture and everything. So that if we, basically, if we need to, kind of cover our butts and stay,
Yeah,
stay local-ish, for whatever reason, as long as we can move within the country, a lot of our kind of general plans, like I'm thinking even, unfortunately, even for like one of our books post the wedding, like six books, book number six is, they
do
were,
it.
oh, we'll go to Scotland, Poland. And right now I'm like, man, Poland might need to sit on the back burner for now because
Yeah,
of who the fuck knows by that point what it's going to look like to be going to Europe at that stage. So, I mean, it's wild, but it's also, no matter what, we live 3,000 miles apart. And I think we always have, now that I'm thinking about it. Like we haven't lived in the same area since,
Halifax.
yes, 2008.
Yeah,
And all of our books have been since then.
yeah,
Uh, 12 was when I first moved, and then you moved shortly after that, and we've just never been in the same city
yeah.
since.
I was living in Toronto when we did the book in Iceland.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the closest we've ever lived since 2008.
And we still chose to go to Iceland for
Yeah,
that
somewhere else.
book.
Morgan, Morgan Stewart.
Hi. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like, but I think, I mean, that's the thing that I love most about it. And like it's also been a really lovely way for us to maintain seeing each other. Like COVID is absolutely the longest chunk of time since we've known each other, despite the fact that we haven't lived in the same city for
Yeah,
COVID is
but
literally,
us to be like, I want to see you. Let's do work.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
that is just
So like, I sent the invitations to our host warming, and like, sure enough, you come through with like, oh, I could also be doing this. Like, I can, scout some locations while I'm there. I'm just like, just come.
I'm not good at doing vacation. Also one of those things
Work
where like,
only. Workation only.
oh God. But like also I mean, to take the time away, like because we are also both small bit like micro business entrepreneurs, to take the time and the money away to
Yeah.
just go and do a vacation is really fucking hard. And so I
Yeah.
think so part of where it's great, like we both have, wanderlust and traveling shoes
Yeah.
and itchy feet. And it's been a really great way of us being able to be like, okay, we want to go to this place. It looks incredible. Let's make a book around it. And even, I mean, I am definitely like dreaming of the point where both of our businesses get steady enough to a stage where we can be like, okay, we're going to take a trip in advance and scout things out in advance. Like with the Iceland trip, I'd been
Mhm.
before and was kind of, okay, I'm very much inspired by the landscape and the fact that there are more sheep than people, totally
Yeah.
into. And so it made it easier to go. But, there's definitely, there's a loveliness about like arriving somewhere and being like, okay, we're just going to like see what we can do with the photography and figure out like where we're going to stop and all these things. But there's also something really lovely about having been somewhere once, knowing that, you know, what is so magical about it, being inspired by that, taking it home, making the, you know, all of the work around it, and then going back and taking.
And still having flexibility in that space, because it's like, yeah, been there once, not an expert, but here's the inspo. So
Yes.
being able to roll with it and still be open to like learning and collaborating in that space together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like not having too rigid of an idea. And I think that's something that's really good about, like, for both of us. We have very different ways of coming at work, and then also very different skill sets that we're bringing together when we make our books.
Yeah.
But also are creatures that, despite be it like we can be extremely headstrong, and we have very specific ideas of what both of us are looking for, but then we also like respect each other's expertise.
Yes.
We are very good at being like, I want this. Oh, your idea is really good too. Okay. And like fit, you know, being flexible and being in the moment. And, you know, as long as we've packed enough snacks and aren't hangry, then it's like, okay, yeah, no, that's a good idea. We should stop here and take photos here.
I
Or
also like, I have a like keen awareness, rather, like that even in these processes, as collaborative as they are, I am working for you. Like,
mm,
I am bringing your vision to the table. It's the same as at my weddings, where I might have an idea or a concept or a vision of what I want to get out of it, but ultimately I'm there working for the client,
yeah.
and needing to be tuned into what images do they want, like what is the desired outcome for them, and that's really, that's the goal. Uh,
Yeah.
and
That's,
bring flair or my vision to it, but really I'm working for them, and in this case with you, I'm working for you. So making sure that I clearly understand what you want out of these images, and then bringing it with my aesthetic.
yeah. Yeah. I think that's like, that's a skill set that I am not quite so good at, of being able to like come in and have a really clear idea. Although I guess when I did, like when I was doing theater productions, and that was it, like you came in for whatever your portion of it was, and you brought your flair next to that. And then, but then you were part of a larger team. And there's also, you know, unless you're the director or the producer, creative producer, then like ultimately your vision is to fit, and your job is to fit into the larger project. But it is, I think, I mean, the other lovely thing about it is that you're very good at doing that for your client, and then also taking advantage of moments to then get, you know, stuff for yourself, and then the aesthetic absolutely combines. And I'm thinking very of the travel photography, right? Like, and you know, if somebody were to book you for a travel wedding and it, you know, felt safe, you know, pre-COVID, I'm thinking of your destination weddings that you'd shot.
Yeah.
And you know, you were able to get this incredible like street photography and landscape photography,
Well,
and
they
like,
basically get in a vacation photographer. If I'm doing a destination wedding with a client, they don't just get their ceremony and their wedding day photographed. If I'm there, I don't know anybody else. I'm there with you.
yeah.
So are you like doing an excursion on a catamaran? Are you going into Havana for the day? Like, are you going, like, what are you doing? And do you want photos of it? Because I mean, yeah, you could bring your phone, or you could friggin' put your phone down, like be in the moment, enjoy yourselves, like hold hands with your honey and walk down new streets. Like, I'm there to capture it, and basically just follow them around, enjoy myself, eat some food with them. Yeah, that's like, honestly, if I can make a living doing that once it's like COVID safe, what a fun time. Basically, you get like a built-in photographer, I get built-in best buds, and we get to like roam the world. A couple weeks, bring it on.
I remember the moment where there was one conversation we were having where I was talking about if I get married myself. And I was like, well, and then I would need to find a photographer because then you would be there. And you were so offended. You were like, what do you mean? I'm your photographer. I was like, oh,
So
I like be there. But like, I mean, now I think, oh, this is so fucking convenient because I'm very much pro elopement at this point.
yeah,
And perfect because you're my witness and my dear one who I would want there anyway. and you'd be the photographer. So this was perfect. We get to like travel together somewhere fun.
Yeah.
And then you take the photos and sign the book wherever the fuck it needs to be signed. Um, Although I guess technically the legal portion of an elopement would have been done prior. So I guess I'd have to fly you
It all
here.
depends.
Who
Like
knows?
some legal portion happens wherever.
But yeah, it was so funny because you were so offended that I would consider anybody. And I was like, I don't know who I would find. Like, I'd have to find somebody. And
Well,
you were,
my brother asked when my brother was getting married. I think he had a challenge trying to figure out if I would stand for him or if I would be the photographer. And I'm like, I think being the photographer is a more important job right now. You know, like I was honored he thought of that, but like, what a way to like leave a lasting mark on their wedding, like to be behind the camera for every one of those photos. I mean, I did get in front of the camera for a few, but yeah.
well, and I guess now with Kelsey working with you, it does make it easier in those moments to be able to, like, you've got somebody who you trust, who's also literally like part of your team slash your general teammate.
Yeah.
Who then you can be like, cool, I need to be in this photo right now, or I need this to be taken. Like, even like the photo that we've used for the graphic, Kelsey took, and I mean, it's beautiful, but also like there are so few photos of you because you're usually the one behind the lens. And so it's such a benefit now to have somebody else who is in those moments. And I'm personally really excited for what it's going to mean for our books moving forward, where we'll actually be able to like capture behind the scenes
Yeah.
images that, and then also have her, because of course, like the two of you will be part of the
Yeah.
traveling.
And Kelsey's instincts with the camera, like we were talking about earlier, of like the you can kind of fumble your way through and still be good, or you've got those strong instincts. Her instincts are like remarkable. Like the way that she sees moments and she's ready for them. There's some technical elements that are still coming along and like still learning about the actual camera settings, like what they're doing and how they're impacting the images. But as far as like instincts with people and moments, like she's top notch. I'm so proud of the work that she's doing.
Well, and I think it's like, she's also like your general partner slash teammate. And so for a lot of folks, they might think, oh, well, like, of course you're gonna like get your person to come and join the business with you. But I think those people don't understand, especially when you're an entrepreneur who has a lot of like background and training, and you've already built a brand,
Mm-hmm.
to in your life partner to that process is like, that's a huge fucking risk. Like financially, yes, it's a risk to have the household reliant on any small business, but also like to actually trust your partner to do a good enough job and to have the skills where not only then like you're also then their boss. And so
Yeah.
to be like, I trust you enough that I can hand this over to you, and you're going to do a great job of it. And I'm not going to have to pussyfoot around, like, not either, like, not telling you when you've done something that isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Uh, and that then if we need to have those conversations work wise, that it's not going to impact our life, like, then tomorrow morning when we're having coffee at the kitchen table. Like, it's actually much.
We kind of do built-in like fail safes around that. So like in the process of photography, there's taking the photo, there's culling the images, and then there's editing them. So
Yeah.
I edit all our images, but Kelsey culls her own. So basically she gets to take her whole bucket of photos, hide all the ones she doesn't want me to see, and
Yeah.
only the ones that she's proud of, which every wedding is getting more and more and more images, to the point where we've nearly doubled our album, like what we're giving to clients. To like when I'm going through her images, I actually have to shoo a few out so that I'm like, we can't give them 1,000 photos for a 6-hour wedding. Like it's so many. So yeah, so like she's kind of built in her own kind of buffer there, where it's like it leaves less room for criticism. Like if she's knows that she's given me say like 1,000 photos and I only took 100 of them, she might be like, why did you only take 100? Like what's wrong with the other ones, right? But it's not that. She's giving me the 100, and I'm just like, this is wow, this is a lot, you know. So that's kind of a built-in fail-safe there. But also because she's usually just like right over there or on the chair when I'm going through the images, I can show her tangible ways, like, look at this crop, you know, like look how it transformed the image, and then put them side by side and be like, do you see like how it's different, how you feel when you see this one versus how you feel when you see this one? So like just me in the frame right now, like in the frame that you can see me, if I'm off to the side like this and you can't see what's over there, this image creates tension.
Yeah.
You have no idea what I'm looking, and there's this negative space over here. But if she had framed it this way, where I'm looking this way, it includes this like architectural element of the shelf, but also you can see where my face is looking in the frame. So it's a lot less tense, and people don't want to look tense on their wedding day. So like mystery like that, although a tool for storytelling, not necessarily the vibe that we're going for in a wedding. So being able to show her those different ways to crop, and like how to center someone, you know, not low in the frame or not too high in the frame, little technical things like that, and picking them up left, right, and center. Like she's catching on so quickly. I almost like she might take over.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, she could just like shoot all the things, and then you're like, I'm gonna scoot over here and do this like fun little project.
Yeah. I'm gonna renovate our house.
Yeah, there's that. I was thinking, oh, the Samson learned photography school, and you're like, no, I have to actually like build some shit in the house. So I had a thought, and then I lost the thought, which is a fairly common occurrence.
Was it about sanctuary? Because I don't think we've actually talked about that yet.
That is true. So this is how, you know, you like keep me semi-organized when we're doing our shoot days. So what is your definition of sanctuary?
Okay, so when you first approached me about this, I actually looked it up, and as I was like Googling, what does sanctuary mean? I was in my head thinking, well, I mean, I think it means like safety, like where I feel safe, like a place of safety. And sure enough, like that's pretty much it. So, not to be like technical, but I think sanctuary is safeness for me. It's in my current life as it is right now, it's manifested as my home. Like this space, these walls, this house is my sanctuary, which is, I think, a quite literal way to put it. But to dive into it a little bit, I think it would be about what's in this home, what these things mean, and the safeness that I feel here. And I think that it is so special to me, and has it's become the place that I want to be the most. Like when I'm away from home, when I'm in Halifax, when I'm working, I'm just like, I literally cannot wait to get home. Like I love it here. And I've never had that. Like growing up, I had a home that I loved, but it was because my family was there and it was safe. But the building of this home, like the creating it, the cleaning it when I moved into what it is now, and creating a vision and filling it with all these special things, it's sacred. It's like, it's just the spot. It's home. And I think that is my sanctuary, that, you know.
It is. And like for folks that, you know, haven't known you as long as I have, it might be like, oh yeah, that's like an obvious thing, is that it's your home. But like ever since I've known you, the idea of you like setting down roots for an extended period of time, and then also wanting to return to those roots on a regular basis, an abnormal thing. Like you have always loved to travel, and there was a very large chunk of our, especially in our 20s, where there was a lot of travel, a lot of like trying to figure out, where am I going to go, where am I going to be. And not only like build, like getting your land, fixing up your house to where it's at now, still having more plans for, you know, what the next stages of it are, but then to add Kelsey into the mix, like the idea that I never expected you to live with a partner.
I think we were FaceTiming when I told you, and I'm pretty sure it was like what? Because
it's always been, and like, you know, that's one part of like what I've like you know, always knew and loved about you, and also knew like, okay, this is a thing with Samson, is like he needs his space. And like even when we are in spaces together for extended periods of time, it's like when we're stuck in a car together, it's very much like, okay, we need to physically separate and go.
We are aware that we are stuck in a car together.
Yeah. But then you, in like in my house, when you've been here over the years and staying, like we'll work in separate rooms. And my house is, I am lucky in that my house, while it's not an open concept plan, and that does cause problems with Willow at times, it,
Big dog.
where each of the individual spaces very much can stand on its own, and it can feel like, okay, we are together in the home, and also you are very much in your own space. Like I have photos of you like in like chair nests that you've created, doing some work while eating like mini eggs. And then like the last time that we did it, I had a roommate at the time, and because Lyle was also in the home, you're like, I'm going to find a different place, and you like rented an Airbnb somewhere.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a, okay, yeah, no, that totally makes sense, because
Yeah.
you need your own space, and that was not going to be like easy or feasible.
Yeah, in that week, that like being able to go back to that Airbnb and like literally feel my body and creativity recharging,
Yeah.
it was like, right, okay, recognizing space is a thing I need. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, to now be living in a fairly small home, like there's
Yeah,
not that,
800, 900 square feet.
like
I,
I would not be wanting to live with another person in that much
it,
space.
it still blows my mind. Like when Kelsey's not here today. Kelsey's with her grandparents, but when she's not here, I do feel like a longing for her. Like,
Uh,
when does she come home? Which is also something like I've dated wonderful and beautiful people in my past. I've shared homes with people in my past, but I have not had that longing, that like I miss this person, like turn into a Sookie baby. Like who am I?
I think it's so adorable, and it makes me very excited. Like, because also you guys got together during COVID, and
Yes.
and I think you also, didn't you buy your property like right at the beginning of COVID?
Yeah, so I bought this property. I closed September 4th. What would it be? 2020.
Yeah.
And I had been looking before the pandemic started,
Yeah.
but had been approved for a mortgage and was like on the hunt. But yeah, this place really came through just as the pandemic was impacting interest rates.
Right.
But they impacted interest rates, and then there was this like low window where prices were still low. So that's when we made the final sale. Like agreed, closing date was September 4th. Everything locked in, paper done.
Yeah.
Uh, and because there was a family here, we had an agent working with them to help find them a new home. Because if it's a rental property, you have to pay 20% down, which was more than I make in a whole year. It was a
Shit.
it was or sorry, it was more than they paid in rent in a whole year. So like would like I forget the numbers exactly, but it was like it was a lot, and it was a lot more than I had.
Yeah.
Uh, so as the interest rates were going down, we had this window where I was like, okay, let's extend the closing date. Let's like right now it's a housing crisis in Nova Scotia. This isn't right. Like we need to help these people find a home. So we
Yeah.
extended the closing date a full 4 months. And had an agent work with them. They found a beautiful home, bigger, better, on the other side of the river, with like a view, yard for the kids, everything. So like all worked out. But on the end scale of that,
The interest rate.
no, property started skyrocketing. So
Oh,
like I had already closed, locked in this low price for this home, and then boom, everything skyrocketed. And I would just like I still like I'm so lucky
yeah.
that this happened when it happened. And maybe that's like the reason also like adding to like sanctuary and why this place feels so sacred to me is because like Nova Scotia and other places in Canada right now are facing severe housing crisis, and it's terrifying. Like I have friends on the edge of homelessness, and seeing Halifax in the state that it is and being there during the riots last August, like it's really scary. And it's still it frightens me to think of the state of our like small Nova Scotia right now, facing such I can't, sometimes the words, I get a little shaken up about it, but yeah, it's pretty scary. And I feel so lucky to have this and to be here, and to be sharing this space with someone so special to me.
It's such an interesting thing to me that you have like very much like physically manifested this sanctuary,
Mhm.
a global pandemic, and during a time also where your business was so dramatically impacted, like you literally could not work.
Yeah. Yeah. Like gatherings weren't allowed. Like when I was filling out I had to apply for CERB. And when I was filling it out, I'm like, I think they ask you, like, are you work, are you choosing not to work? Like something like of that nature of like, do you have a choice in the matter kind of situation? I'm just like,
Oh,
yeah, no, there's nothing. I can't do anything. Like I could take pictures of pretty things. Like I'm still capable of photographing things, but I can't photograph the people. And that's what pays me.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I haven't physically lost my ability. I just am not able to then apply it to my work.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, yeah. And like, I'm so grateful the government did come through with CERB and recognized freelance and gig workers in that, like also
Yeah.
showed a NDP to go into bat for that. Because the Liberal government was just sitting on their ass about it. But happy to have a government that recognized it and was able to um, throw some support our way because, yeah, CERB really bailed me out.
Well, and it's such an interesting, like I've definitely heard of people since then where CERB was, is being clawed back because the, like, basically like they weren't really qualified for it, but then they got it anyway
Yeah.
and being clawed back. And like, I don't, I I'm like, if people were in that position where then I don't actually think it should be clawed back because you had people that were enough on the edge that then they are still on the edge. Like
Yeah.
we're not
I think there was also, I don't know if it was just a Nova Scotia one, I'm not sure, but the first payment was not taxed at the source. So
right.
I think that's the like something that's being clawed back, but the other ones were.
Yeah, I think it meant I don't know because I didn't end up qualifying for CERB. I qualified for different COVID relief with my small business, and
Mhm.
that was like such a fucking like I'm so grateful for that. Like I ended up with money that I wouldn't have otherwise, and it allowed me to like make my way through COVID,
Right.
uh, and make my way through the fact that like holiday season was all of our markets did not happen. And that's obviously a very important thing for small product based businesses. But I mean, I remember at the time with so many of my friends being in the States and seeing them like fighting and like eventually I think they got like a $600 check one time and that was it. And I was like, this is not adequate. And like some things were not done fabulously, but I was very grateful that when it happened and when shit went down, it was like, okay, we're going to immediately start using the tools and systems that we already have in place, like, the child benefit, like,
Mhm.
EI,
Yeah.
whatever. And we're going to start scooting money out those ways because we already have those systems in place. It'll be easy for us to immediately start getting money out. And as we start identifying gaps, we'll start filling those gaps. But it wasn't like we're going to sit and wait and see if maybe we figure out like, oh, all of these people need stuff, but meanwhile they've spent 6 months not having support.
Hmm.
And I mean, in my definitely seen how our provincial government has sat on money and then or sat on resources and then waited until, oh, okay, we don't need them anymore, so now we'll make them available. And it's like, well,
Government as well. Like it was kind of ridiculous, like how much they were struggling, and the government was just sitting there with like this nest egg of emergency funds. It's like, what is this if not emergency?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so what is something that you are looking forward to and or are uh like I don't yeah, what's something that you're looking forward to when it comes to us shooting Sanctuary this time?
Oh, honestly, being in the same space, like
Yeah.
it feels so rare. So there's that. You give great hugs, so I'm looking for that. So like in the way that we've identified our weaknesses, like trying to navigate, I don't want to say potential conflict, but like
No, totally.
when we do push against each other, there is energy in that is like, this is part of the process.
Yes,
uh,
absolutely.
and I don't want to say like, I'm looking forward to fighting with you, because it's not about fighting with you. It is about, we do always inevitably find that spot of kind of playful tension where it's like, okay, this is where the decisions we're making
Yes.
have greater weight.
Yes.
This is the work. Like this is the important part of this. This is like, this is the story we're telling. This is the art we're creating. That, and you can feel it. That's, I really do look forward to that. And it's kind of like when I'm shooting weddings, and it's like when you're looking at your watch and you know, okay, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, I need to do this, the light is like this, and you can feel the kind of world pushing in on you, and you're like, right, so much going on around me, doesn't matter. Tune in, hone in to what matters, make those decisions, bang out the shots, make your clients happy. And I thrive in that pressure.
It's so funny too, because when I think of like our last two books that we've done with Kutch, these incredible shots that we took of the cocktails, that you took of the cocktails, because you were able to shoot all of the recipes for Kutch, and then COVID fucked us for the shoals.
Yeah.
But for the food shots, we did them over the course of one day. And the cocktail shots are these like incredibly beautiful candlelit, glowing images.
Smoke billowing.
Literally, because we were losing daylight.
Yeah.
Remember, the sun went real quick, and we were losing daylight. And I remember that pressure of like, we got to get these done.
Yeah.
And with Ethsco, literally the image that we used for the cover was from the very last day that we took photos. And we were getting ready to get off the road, go settle ourselves, to then get ready to go to the fucking airport the following day. And we stopped in one of the lava fields outside of Reykjavik. We dropped off Marshall. We were trying to figure out where the fuck are we going to stay tonight. And we stopped off beside this lava field, and you're like, go walk on the moss. And I was like, I don't want to walk on the moss with my shoes and socks. Or I think I wore the socks.
I didn't say walk on the moss. I was like, we need to get you out there.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I'm willing to walk on the moss with my shoes. And so I was like, basically like teeter-tottering, balancing my way across empty gaps on the lava stones where I wasn't stepping on too much of the moss. And you were photographing me doing this. And meanwhile, I'd left a pile of shit beside, the like back near where you were. And these shots ended up being like, honestly, the whole overall feeling and magic of Fethsco was like this reverence for the landscape and the plants, and this
in contact with it.
yes, yeah, directly, like in relationship with it, and this like playfulness in the process of it, like being a kid trying to like balance yourself on a balancing beam, and like, don't step on the cracks, like basically with the stones and the moss. And then the pile of shit that I dragged with us the whole time, left in a nest on the ground. And like this incredible landscape that had like mountains in the background, kind of covered by cloud cover. And it was just this like ethereal image, and that really did capture the whole, in a nutshell, this was what this trip was.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited to see what that ends up being when we do Sanctuary, and how, because then we're gonna be fighting with Winter Light, trying to take this like really beautifully like warm, cozy imagery that also will hopefully have a lot of florals, but like it's not gonna be growing season really.
Yeah.
And seeing
dried floor.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we are going to be working with some bridal florists. But you know, like what that's going to be, and also what the constraints will end up being that we don't anticipate yet. I mean, I've got, I think, three or four, no, four people on pretty, five people on pretty active like model weight, and there's only one of them that is like you'll at least physically be there. Whether or not you then in the moment actually want to be in front of the camera, because I'm not forcing anybody in front of the camera, it's going to be, you know, we'll see. And so like then also planning outfits and knits and things like that around. Somebody had mentioned earlier like, oh, you need to like, for the wedding book, find somebody who's planning their wedding and then book according, like make everything for them. And that's honestly one of the fucking hardest things to do, because these projects are so far in advance that we are planning, and the making portion of the stuff happens over such a long period of time. Part of the reason that I've been the model up until this point, and the only model up until this point, is because I can guarantee that I will be there. If we're making this book, I will be there. But I can't guarantee that nobody else's lives are going to change between now and when the book is going to be photographed. And so I basically design things that will fit me. And then if we're lucky, and so this time it's like, okay, we all have quite different body shapes, but the base outfits should fit on each of us. And I mean, that's the beauty of you know, clothing generally, is that it doesn't need to be a specific size to fit in different ways on different bodies. But it does also mean that there are constraints to like what extent of a range of bodies can we be working with. And that's not because it's like, well, we can't make things for them. It's literally that I can't say that 3 years from now, when we were finally ready to do that body shoot, or
Yeah.
that that person is still going to want to and be able to physically get there for us, but then B, that their body is going to be the same. So if I'm custom making something for somebody else, then 3 years is too long of a time frame. If we can lock somebody down a few months beforehand, then maybe that'll be close enough, and still trust that they'll be able to make it, and can make sure that, you know, they've got that time booked off, that they don't have something else happening in their life.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can't afford to have an entire pattern tossed out because one person can't make it to the shoot.
Yeah.
And it also makes me think about like, I also have a kids book planned in my head of what I want. Kids are so much fucking harder, because it's like, okay, it's going to take us 3 years to get this figured out. Kids change a lot in 3 years, assuming that you've got the same kid planned. You kind of need like a brood of children that you can be kind of plucking from.
Yeah.
So we'll see once it comes to that. But yeah, I don't know. I think the main thing will be making sure that we have snacks, so that any tension that comes is like creative, fun tension and not hangry tension, because we're both pretty good at being hangry.
Yeah. I'm less hangry these days, probably because like I'm also making sure Kelsey's not hangry, which means we're well fed. Meals are regular.
Yep.
When my own device, it's like, I haven't had breakfast. Kelsey's been out of the house for 24 hours. And I'm like, what, food? What? No, I'm fine. Yep. But if here, then I'm like, do you need food? Can I make you snacks? Do you want dips?
That is, yeah, that's definitely a thing. I am excited for Sanctuary, because there is like one of the like images in my head is basically like a floor picnic, which we are notorious for to begin with. Yeah. And it's going to have a lot of really delicious foods and snacks that I'm excited about.
Bring it.
So, and Grace is going to be making, the plan right now is that she's going to be making all of the serving dishes, etc., for things. So that's going to be delightful. But yeah, so there'll at least be some snacks, but we also will need to not eat.
Hello.
Somebody opened the gate and then closed it, so probably the mail person. Munchkaroo. Yeah. Hi, my love.
God.
Do you have any like final thoughts on either Sanctuary or like also maybe is there like a quick tip that you have for somebody who is looking to book a wedding photographer? What's a quick tip to kind of help people go through that process? Because I feel like wedding planning is like stupidly stressful in a way that often I honestly am surprised that people do weddings.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a really good way to have a divorce before you actually get married.
Yeah. I would say, well, the first thing that comes to mind for me, when like specifically around weddings and wedding photographers would be, uh, yes, keep your budget in mind,
Mhm.
but do not shop based on your budget.
Mm,
Really ask yourself when you're looking at portfolios what you like, what you don't like, what majority of, like if you're looking at a whole portfolio that they have on their website,
mhm.
do you see 3 photos that you're like, oh my God, that's amazing, and the rest you're like,
Meh.
that's good. Um, I would want whoever's booking me to be overwhelmingly moved by my images, to know exactly when they're looking at my portfolio what they like, and what I'm consistently good at. And I have a questionnaire that I give all my clients, and one of the questions is, what drew you to my work and what do you like most about my work? And I would say without fail, maybe 1 or 2 people like something different, like color or vibrancy or whatever. But the majority of responses is movement and candid.
Yes.
Like that, the couples don't look overly posed in the images, that
Yeah.
they natural, that there's movement, and that it feels candid.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm good at capturing. I'm also like surprised those moments aren't candid. I create them. So I have couples do things like walk this way, turn this way, have a spin, look at each other, stare at each other, don't laugh, don't. Oh, there it is. They're laughing. So like then you get that photo of them face to face laughing like into each other's mouths essentially, and it's really beautiful. But and it looks candid, but it's not. So it's really about putting these couples at ease. And so what you need to do when you're trying to choose your wedding photographer is look over their whole portfolio, ask to see full galleries, ask them about their budget. If it's above your budget, ask yourself, is it worth it? Like what's going to last with you for the rest of your life? That cake? Probably not, but it's going to be delicious. Get the cake. Always get a cake, or cupcakes. But those wedding photos, they're family heirlooms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
When you're old and gone, the people that come after you are going to look at them and say, this is so and so, and this is so and so, and these are their friends. And those photos mean something. They're special. They're records. They're our history. They're important for storytelling. They're important for story keeping. And they're just special to look back on. They're to have them. Oh, and print your damn photos. We have tons of screens around us all the time. Print your photos. Like, just print them and put them on your walls. Print them and keep them in your wallet. I don't care what you do with them. Just print them. Make sure you print them because they're important to hold in your hand. That's a whole different experience and level of experience with your images, is tangibly holding them, whether it's in a book form like Ash does, or if it's in friggin' stacks of photographs like I do twice a year. Maybe that's weird. I don't know. I print photos of my clients.
I think it's good that your work. Like, and it's also
Who sees them? Like I imagine my nieces, McKenna or Grace Darling, like coming through my photos like years later and just being like, wow, he went to a lot of weddings. Like, who are these people? I don't know. Who are these?
no idea. Never met them.
Yeah. I'll have to write on the back of them who everybody is so that my family knows down the road.
Yeah, that's one thing that we've really come to value. Like, my mom has become like the gatherer of photos for both of the family, but especially like the older photos. And if like when people are alive and she can ask, who are these people, and
Right.
but then also though, like if she can find the photos that have the names on them, then being able to track those things
Yeah.
back. Like that time that we went to go visit my poppy shortly actually before he died, and we found photos in the attic.
Yeah.
Out, and he told us all about, like, he knew exactly who these people were, and they were from when he was like, there was a photo from when he was in 6th grade, and my poppy was like,
And he could name everyone in the class, I'll bet.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
was. But and he like, then that batch of photos was also where we learned like, oh, you had a girlfriend before you went to the war, Betsy, and she was in a photo with him and one of his brothers and his brother's wife, and or no, him, two of his brothers, and then Betsy was in the photo, and we are like, who the fuck is Betsy? I was like, oh, it was my girlfriend. I went away to the war and she thought I died, and so she married my best friend, and so then I came home and I met your grandmother. Okay. Like, you wouldn't have those stories. Those stories wouldn't come out if you didn't have the photographs to be able to look
Yeah.
back through. Be like,
And
oh,
we spend so much of our time in our days on screens. I mean, we're on them right now.
yep,
To have the physical photo in your hand, or like holding one of the books that we make together, like it's it's really special to see images in print, and also like going through them and selecting which ones you want to print. That's also really fun.
yeah.
It helps you identify like what's important to you, what you like about images. Yeah.
That's so true. I'm really excited with the Sanctuary Hub because we're going to be able to share so much more. Like, there's so much that people don't get to see from the work that we produce together when we're making the books. Like, I mean, like, even with the combo of, yes, okay, we've got the printed book that has a certain number of images, and then the individual patterns will also have extra images. But there, I would say we use max a third on a good day of the images that we ultimately like have called down through and edited and decided this is the batch of photos where now we are deciding for the
Yeah.
print. There's so much that doesn't get shared, and I'm so excited about being able to share that within the Sanctuary Hub, and being able to like when we we're doing the photo shoot, being able to be like, here's behind, like, truly behind the scenes stuff that's going on,
Yeah.
and getting to share that part of it too. Like, yes, it's interesting if you're interested in like how does a book come together, or how does a big creative project like this come together, but also just like, what goes behind, like what are all of these adventures, and especially where this one is going to be a gathering of as many dear ones as possible. I'm excited for that.
I mean,
So where can people find you? If people are like, oh my God, I want Samson for my wedding, where can people book you? And when are what are you booking for at this point?
right.
Uh, and if they're not planning on getting married, are there things that you're like, I've got time to do this at this point?
Well, my website is Samson Learn, SAMSON, no P in there. And my learn to learn something.com. And on there, you can see there's an investment page, and you can look at it to see the variety of packages I offer and types of photography I offer. Um, I don't have, sorry, a lot of trucks driving by. I don't have my website's quite geared towards weddings right now, but I do have full galleries that I can share with people about family photography, portraits, like if you just want to do some solo stuff with yourself, or I've done pet photography in the past. Typically, the only thing I don't do is newborn photography, and that's specifically because I think that it takes a special type of photographer to do that and kind of manipulate their little bodies to be in these cute little poses, and I just don't know enough about babies. I don't want to touch them. Um, so I tend to be a
All
little
pandemic
um,
back.
yeah, no, I'll let somebody else, an expert in that field, do that. Um, I think I'm pretty good at recognizing what I'm not good at. And while I might be able to snap the picture, I'm not good or my most comfortable self around little tiny humans. So I tend to stick to the full grown ones that are getting married or just want to look cute for their Tinder profile, or whatever it is. I'm happy to take those photos. And something that's really kind of taken off for me this year, which I shouldn't be surprised by it, but I wasn't able to predict it, is family photos. Because for the first time in like 2 years, a lot of families are gathering again, and they want that occasion marked. So that's been, I mean, I really, if I had thought about it and hadn't been so busy with other things, I probably could have, kind of predicted that would happen. I'm happy to see it happening. It's really beautiful. And in the galleries that I deliver, I'm trying to take a bit of a candid approach, but we are doing those big group shots with like big family and like, you know, the different iterations of family. Um, and then in the galleries, I can see that people are favoriting and the types of photos they're favoriting, and the ones that they're taking to my print shop as well, which is really great to see. Like that, you know, somebody in their early 20s is printing that portrait of grandma, and it's like, yes,
So sweet.
those photos, and like loving seeing family. I mean, getting together in the same space is one thing, but seeing the like the intergenerational, like it feels like people are putting a new importance on reconnecting with their families and building those relationships that I feel like were probably a bit strained before the pandemic, and some things brought us together. There was, I guess, some good things that came out of the pandemic. I personally a lot closer to my grandparents. You know, now that I've realized how precious time and life is. So reconnecting with those important people in my family.
Sweet. It's so funny as you say that because I also like in the last couple of, I think it was actually the year. Oh no, it was last summer. So it was during COVID. COVID's lasted so long and time is not real. But I was trying to make my house feel more homey because also, I mean, like, yes, I was working out of my house before COVID anyway, but it was very much like, oh, fuck, I need to make this like, I need to differentiate space. I need to make it feel more like a home.
Mhm.
And I realized a big part of what I hadn't done was put things up on walls. And part of that is because I have a 115-ish-year-old house that has like a mix of plaster and then
Mm.
some there's drywall in some places, there's plaster and lath and others that I don't fucking know. There's been various iterations, so who the fuck knows where things are behind the walls. My stud finder is not the easiest of creatures to work with. And so I just for a really long time avoided putting things up on walls. And then I was like, no, I need pictures. And so I literally like I have not, I mean, it's a bit of an ancestor altar, but it's also like an altar to loved ones and dear
Yeah.
ones of my mantle place now that I didn't used to have. And it's got printed pictures of my favorite humans and their and critters. And yeah, it's above my mantelpiece or above my fireplace, and I add things to it on a semi-regular basis. I've yet to take anything off of it. And yeah, there's just something that's so like warming about it. It like makes it feel like a home, and I guess also contributes to that sensation of sanctuary.
Yeah. I was hesitant to hang anything for a long time as well, but it was less about what was in the walls and more about I just fixed this wall. I don't put any holes in it. But I have broken the seal, if you will. Yeah, there are things going up. Kelsey was a great help to that as well. Kelsey is like the your mom in your family, where like the collector of history, and um, seeing it represented in front of her and in her space is really important to her. And watching the way that she handles sentimental items and puts them on shelves and what she cares about displaying has also reminded me of right, like I keep this weird thing from Marshall right here because it reminds me of, you know, a close friend, and having that right there is like a reminder of a friendship and having fun. And you know, with Marshall in particular, it's like, oh yeah, get out in the woods, like
Yes.
be under the trees, like find a boat, get in the water. So having that there, like as I'm at my workstation, is like, right, work, go smell the trees, like go outside, do a thing. So that's, I realized that I do little things like that for myself, but I was doing it on such a smaller scale before. Now that I share space with Kelsey, we both do it, and we do it for each other too, which is really special. So our guest room, will this, do you think this works if I go? Like,
Yeah,
take it with me? Our guest room is the first room that we renovated together. Oh shoot, gotta turn you around. Here you go. So this is the room itself, which is pretty basic. My desk will eventually go in this space right here. But these shelves are just littered with important people, important messages, important like just important stuff. And it's really lovely to like come in here and kind of seek refuge because it's quieter in here. The light, as you notice, is a lot different. And it's just, I don't know, it's just there's a vibe in here that is special. Like my grandmother made that. That's really cute. You know, Kelsey found this in the tree line, digging up plants and stuff, and we cleaned it and I painted it, and it fits with this like photo here and the old marbles can. Yeah, we got like a little maritime section of books. Got Stuart McLean up there.
Necessary.
All albums of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos that I've printed of friends, family, wedding clients. Yeah. So this room is really special. Oh, and this is, remember the reminder of Marshall to like get out under the trees?
Yes. Literally.
So this literally hangs over where my desk is going to go. So there and ready. Yeah. And the effort and detail that and thought that went into this space is like it feels precious and it feels like a collaboration. Oh, sorry, I'm just like showing you my chin.
And your nose.
Yeah. And this is our second collaboration, which is this is part of the house that's under construction right now. Is like we decided to put closets in the laundry room to kind of take the closet out of the bedroom. So the bedroom becomes like a serene space with just like plants, bed, keeping it nice and clean. We're gonna have like a piece of artwork here eventually, I'm sure. And this is another piece, little bit of artwork that Kelsey's done for me.
Cute.
Yeah. It's a postcard that I sent her when we first started dating.
That's fucking adorable.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. On the back it says, I hope you find the perfect place to hang this.
Oh my God. You two are stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, that's adorable. I am so happy about all of this. I am so happy that like your house in the like since you and Kelsey have been like building it together. I mean, I remember when you first bought your house and you were doing the work yourself and life looked quite different. And it was also, beginning of a pandemic and all of the rest of these things, but it felt like, okay, well, Samson's got his place now, but he's setting down some roots, but it didn't feel, I can feel the serenity in your home, even though it's still like an active construction site, like coming through the screen, I'm like, okay, witchy vibes. This is like, you have set so many beautiful spells in the, you're like, there's a literal spell I'm gonna show you. Oh my God, you have to do both. Okay, the other thing that people need to understand is that Samson used to get like so upset with me. Yes, for collecting bones. There is.
I'm pretty sure this is the one you picked up in Iceland.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so in Iceland, you started giving me bones after Marshall gave me bones, and it was very funny because oh, such a handsome crab. It was very funny because I think you saw like how excited I was about these bones that Marshall gave me, and so then you started giving me bones, but you weren't like super stoked about touching them, and you would like stop and let me collect bones, but didn't necessarily want to be like the one dealing with them. But literally, our first book, we ended up taking photos down a pathway. It was like just a random drive.
Yeah.
And you were like, okay, stop there. And I looked down at my feet and there was a literal pile. Oh. And I was so excited and I reached up and I held one and there's a photo of me doing that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm taking these home. And you were like, they are going in the trunk.
Yeah.
Trunk. You wouldn't let me take them into the house.
They were not naked bones though. There was still like rope on them.
They were very clean. I did nothing to them. They were extremely clean. I did. They have gone into dye pots since then, but I have not cleaned those bones. They were very clean.
Um, I have come so far with my relationship with bones. I have a concrete block in my shop. I can't go out there because the Wi-Fi is not strong enough to show you. But I have it's a concrete block, and I have on my walks been finding bones from like because the river across the road is there's a bit of a floodplain, uh,
Mm,
and sadly I think that animals wash up there because when the water goes back down, what would have been in the water just flown away to sea is now there. So I've found weird bones over there, like just like random bones. But I've collected them all, and I have a actual pile of bones in my shed that is like I don't know if you can tell size on this, but it's like
decent.
yeah, like almost 8 inches high, and like the block itself is like a square foot. Like it's a lot of bones.
And they're small bones too, like not
Yeah,
large.
big
I'm so
things.
I'm like playing with I'm gonna be like, hello, hello, let me talk to you. Who are your spirits? Who's attached still?
So here's the this is how I know I've gotten comfortable with it because when Kelsey and I were talking about how to decorate the space, the housewarming party, I was like, well, we have all these bones. Like we could wash the bones and like make little wind chimes out of them and stuff like that. And Kelsey's eyes were just like,
No, it's a perfect idea. Make these beautiful little, very delicate wind chimes.
well, I have a small handful of people in my life that would appreciate it. I'm not sure that Kelsey's on board yet, but we'll see.
You can mix in other things. If you were to mix in like dried florals with the bones, it would be so pretty. Or crystals and stones.
Well, that'll definitely win her over. She likes those things.
Oh my God. We can stick some hagstones in with them.
I'll just hide them somewhere on the property. We'll see when you find it.
Yeah. I'm gonna make them. I'll be like just everyone's gonna be like, what the fuck? Be like, I was fixing the bunting and now I'm making some bone wind chimes. Oh God, I love it. This has been absolutely delightful. So I'm so excited for when I get to see you in September. Oh my God, it's gonna be so. And then I'm also excited for when I then come back in November so that we can shoot this book, and it's going to be wonderful. If folks want to book you for a wedding, which they absolutely should, then they can get in touch with you at samsonlearn.com.
Yep.
I'm also very excited because Sanctuary is going to be. I remember one of the first things I said to you when I was like, we're doing this book, this is the next plan, was I want it to be boudoir style photography. But it's going to be like like I'm an awkward creature, and also it's going to be like so many dear ones. It's going to be like boudoir style photography, but like also just like friends in a cuddle puddle eating really good food, like draped in. Yeah, that's going to be great. So
we do end up working. It just occurred to me where it can't be like an old drafty place because y'all be cold.
yes, oh my God. Well, once I'm home and seeing you, and I go to see SJ, then I'll suss out where there's the least amount of drafts in the house,
Great.
and then also make sure that like the house ghost is comfortable with the situation. I'll be like, we'll pour you a shot as well, and you can also have some snacks. She's an active ghost. This is going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. If folks want to join the Sanctuary Hub, we are starting the Creative Coven Challenge tonight. So our first swatching meetup will be this evening. So join the Sanctuary Hub at ashalberg.com/sanctuary. But then as we continue working on these books, and especially when we get to do the photo shoot, there will be so much more added into it. You have oodles of resources, oodles of these earlier stages of behind the scenes that are already there that you can be checking out. Again, the Creative Coven Challenge starts tonight. So join it now, but then keep an eye out as we add more and more things to the Sanctuary Hub as well. I'm really excited about what this hub is going to be able to do for us with future book babies too. I'm like imagining that each of our books moving forward will have its own little hub added. But yeah, so folks can find that there. It helps us to know kind of what budget are we working with as we are getting into this next stage. And then also, I'm sure there will be extra bonuses that end up happening in the hub for folks there once the book gets to a point of being print worthy. So yeah, join the Sanctuary Hub. And Samson, thank you so much for chatting with me. I love you so much. Give Kelsey my love as well.
Will do.
And I will talk with you soon. Thank you everyone for being here, and we'll see you soon. Bye.